Hey there, welcome to SaaS Unbound, brought to you by SaaS Group. I'm your host, Anna Nadeina, and this is the podcast where we talk to inspiring founders and experts to get a scoop on how they made their business a success. And our guest today is Kevin, a founder of Keyword.com, SaaS product that's changing how people in the SEO world track and share their results. And in May 2022, Keyword.com became a part of SaaS Group family. So it's great to have you. And we're here to talk about Kevin's journey to acquisition. Hi, Kevin, and welcome.
Thanks, Anna, for inviting me, and glad to be here.
That's awesome. Okay, I know it's your first podcast, so could you please tell a bit about your background? It's pretty cool.
Yeah, so I got into this space like about 11 years ago in 2011, 2012, and back then it wasn't even called SaaS. It was just called website with recurring payments. There was no Stripe. It was very very ancient back then, and I kind of stumbled into it, not knowing what it was, and then over the years kind of got caught up to date and all that fun stuff.
Okay. And you were studying computer science, right? When you started keyword.com.
Yeah, I started it when I was like basically like 17, 18 years old, and I went to I went to university for computer science. But then after about a year or so, I dropped out, and I could decide just to focus on Keyword.com full time, because it was kind of taking off. Yeah.
That's pretty great. A very interesting story. But a lot of founders would argue that in order to start and to grow a successful SaaS business or any business whatsoever, you should have whether a ton of experience in the industry or you should try to solve your personal itch. So, what was it for you? Why did you come up with it?
Yeah. So how it started was this was like back in 2011 or so. I was trying to back in the time the popular thing wasn't SaaS, but it was like affiliate websites, like Amazon affiliates and Google AdWords websites. So what happened was I tried to set up like 100 websites at once, and I set them all up with articles and I was trying to rank them for Google. But then when I looked at how I could track these rankings, I couldn't find any good solution. Or I think the solution at the time was like $50 a month, which was a lot of money for me. So I said, okay, I think I can build one of these, and I started Googling stuff and piecing stuff together by hand, and eventually I set up like an MVP for myself and shared it with some people, and they really liked it, and that's how I started getting into the space and got my first customer. Uh, and then those affiliate websites never took off; they just ended up dying off. But I started innovating on the SaaS product.
That's great. Okay. So, yeah, like you said, casually, you got your first clients, right? So that is usually the biggest part, the hardest part for any founder. So could you elaborate how you got your first users, I guess?
Yeah, so I at the time, actually, I this is like a really common thing they do now, where you validate like the market before you even build anything to just offload the risk. But I did that unknowingly back then. Basically, I built this product for myself, and there weren't a lot of solutions back then. So I was on a forum, and I posted a thread there, and I was like, hey, like I built this thing. Does anybody want to try it out? And as soon as I posted it, there was like dozens and dozens of comments saying yes, like I'm interested. Then I decided to release it as a free trial, or like not free trial, but like some free plans or something like this. And people started using it, and eventually started um, charging if they want to use like a larger package. So it was a very organic and smooth process, I would say.
Okay. All right. Do you remember maybe the first customer that you lost and why?
First customer lost. I think they were because and then when I first started, I didn't even know anything about pricing, so I was pricing it at like $3 a month at the smallest package. So I think I must have lost customers here and there, but honestly, I don't even remember. because it was just so small and yeah, it was kind of insignificant. Later on, we fixed the pricing and everything, but in the beginning, it was quite small. But I do
Okay.
remember getting one of my first larger customers, which was interesting. Um, I think I was like just I was still in university at the time, and he asked me to he emailed me, and he found out that he was near my city, like 40 minutes away, and he asked me to come by his office and do show him a demo. And so I asked my dad, and he drove me to his office. I sat there. I went in. I was like 19 or something at the time, and this guy has like a huge SEO agency, and I was just so nervous. I was trying to show him the product, and then he ended up signing up, and I think he's still a customer today, like 10 years later. So
Oh wow.
it was,
That's yeah,
yeah.
that's an amazing story. Cool. All right. So yeah, you started talking about pricing and the packages. So how did you validate idea in the first place? Like how did you realize that people were actually ready to pay for it?
Well, I think with the interest that I got it from the market, like people were signing up, and then people were asking for more and more usage, like to track more keywords. So I actually just said, okay, well, if you want to track more, this is the price, and people were signing up and signing up. So that's how I realized people wanted to pay for it.
Okay. So again, a pretty organic process.
Yeah.
All right. So how did the price change over the years? How did you validate different packages and realize what's working?
Yeah. So when I first started, I think the competitors were offering, for example, first I looked at the competitors and saw what they were doing, and at first back 10 years ago, people were offering like hourly rank tracking updates. So naturally, I put hourly ranking updates, and eventually, um, that just stopped becoming a thing because like instead of talking to customers and asking the customers what they want, I think people are just following the trend like with hourly updates. But realistically, people don't need hourly updates unless it's like maybe Black Friday or something. But people just look at daily or every other day. And so first, I looked at the trends with the other competitors, and eventually we started talking to customers more to figure out what they actually need instead of just copying the competitors or something like this. And then trend after figuring out how much value we're delivering to the customer, and then adjusting the pricing accordingly.
Okay. And yeah, we're still talking about 2011, 2012, right? You said you started putting some pieces together for an MVP. So how did keyword.com look at first?
Um, yeah, it was very very rough. It was just based off. Well, the first version that went live around 2012 or so, it was just using like a Bootstrap theme. Like I think it was like Bootstrap version one point something. And back then that was like an amazing template. Back then there was no custom designs. It was just like if the website worked, then that was like this
Yeah.
golden standard back then. So I think we put some I had some photos on the about us page with some tunnels. Not sure if they moved it or not, but yeah.
Okay. All right. And what was the, I don't know if that's even something we can talk about in this case. What was the customer acquisition cost?
Yeah, so I never actually had to spend any money to acquire customers. Almost the whole thing was like word of mouth. I tried to run ads a few times, but it just never worked with the like this business model. So it was always basically word of mouth, and we had some posts like around various forums. But other than that, there was never a way. There was never a situation where we had to spend money to actually acquire customers. Everything was organic for the most part.
That's pretty cool. You say forums, and I get this huge nostalgia about forums being everywhere
Yeah.
and about everything. that's that's pretty cool. Okay, so when did you start scaling? Because obviously, I did some research, and then I went to the website, and it says, okay, so we launched in 2011, and then 2012 we went live, and now 10 years later, everything's fine, guys. So, what happened in between? How did you start scaling, and how did you acquire such big brand names as Shopify, Tinder, and so on?
I think the main advantage was just getting in at the right time, right spot. I think when I was getting started, there was maybe two or three competitors, and also you have to remember like Google was only 10 years old at the time. I think Google like got started basically in the 2000s. And then I think the search engine actually got good maybe in 2005, 2006. And then, so that means like SEO was only about 5 years old at the time when it got started. So there was actually not that many rank tracking solutions back then. And Google, Google back then, I'm not sure what the market share was, but like today it's at, upwards towards 90%, but back then it might have been 20, 30. So actually the whole industry is very new. Like back then they were using Yahoo, Ask Jeeves, Bing. So it's still very, very new. And I think one of the advantages is just getting so early. So when one of the big brands needed rank tracking or when they got into SEO, they just had to naturally find one of the products in the market, and mine was one of them.
Okay. And did anything change in your acquisition? So did you start at some point going after startups or SMEs?
Yeah, so I think when we first started, there was a lot of small businesses, and then like there's freelancers. So we had like freelance people with maybe one or two affiliate websites, and then there's another segment like a small business owner doing SEO for themselves, and then there's SEO agencies, and then there's also enterprises. Essentially, those are like the four kind of segments. Later, what helped us get the larger customers later on was that we started building the product around the larger enterprise customers. Like for example, if you just take a regular rank tracker right now in the market, it's more the user puts in the keywords, and then there's a table with rows of keywords that they can see the rankings for. But the human eye can only parse maybe 10 or 15 lines, and then after that, the data is not useful anymore. So for example, we build things like the share voice, which takes the set of keywords, and then within those keywords, you can segment them with tags and stuff like this, and you can dive deep into them, and then from there, the share voice tells you like what percent of market share you have, what percent of the like what percent of equity of the clicks you have that's clicking to your website. So just shifting from like a table view to stuff like share voice unlocks projects having a cap of, let's say, 50 or 100 keywords being tracked to now you can track 5,000 or 10,000 keywords in a single project, and you can put groups on them and then tags further down, right? So that just unlocks that product unlocks different like user abilities. So one is more for like the small freelancers, another one's more for like enterprise and larger businesses.
That's great. Okay, thank you for telling us that. So I want to talk a little bit about your journey as a founder. Obviously, you were super young. You dropped out of the university. You were a sole founder. So what was it in it for you? Like, why did you decide to jump into the business and grow in it yourself?
Yeah, I think just superficially, I saw more upside in the business because the business was taking off, and then I realized, if best case scenario, if I finish the degree, I'll get a job paying like, the average market rate. And I was like, hey, if the business can take off, then I'm already beating what the outcome could be in university, and I'll have to waste like 3 or 4 years finishing it. So just logical thought process was to go and work on the business. And I thought I could always come back at any time to finish the university. And I don't know, I just think university is also like a huge like compliance test. Like I was in there for computer science. I was trying to learn computer science, and then they're making me take like math. Math is fine. I mean, it's cool, but I wasn't like so into it. And they also making take like earth science and all these other courses. So I remember just going to guidance counselor, and I was like, hey, like I like computer science. I want to study this, but like I can't, like the math is getting too hard. Like, there was like talking about I like math, but they're starting to talk about math proofs 1 or 2. Like this is really
Yeah.
just like a pretty complex stuff. I was like, hey, like the math stuff's too much. I like it, but I'm not really into it. I just want to focus on my computer science. I don't want to be taking earth science, and they make you take like all these different fields just to get a degree. It's like, hey, can I just get my computer science degree? And she's I don't know, just like they run you through the system, and then they force you into this they just treat you like a number almost. So she was telling me, hey, no, you have to do all these other courses to get your computer science degree. And I was like, yeah, but I can't, like I don't want to do this other stuff. And then she's like, oh, maybe you can you can get another degree. She was asking like what I like. I was like, oh, I also like the sociology course I'm taking, and crime seems fun. And she's like, oh yeah, maybe you can become like a criminal sociologist or something like this. And I was like, what the hell's happening here? And then I went back home. I told my dad, and he has a PhD and stuff. So he told me, hey, what's wrong with that? Just get your degree. And I was just like, I was thinking like, am I the only one who sees this? Like, what's going on? So from there, I just made the decision, like, this, university is not for me, and just decided to pursue this.
Okay. All right. But obviously, like you said, Google has been around not for so long, and this whole industry you were entering was pretty young. So there should have been still a quite learning curve. So how did you cope with that?
The learning curve on which part?
On like doing the business and getting into SEO, and with it developing so rapidly. So how did you do it, not having previous business experience?
Oh, yeah, I mean, I think for anyone, if you really set your mind to it, it takes maybe like, 3 to 6 months to dive into any niche. You know, aside from like Hero.com, I've also bought and operated a couple other businesses in, in random niches, like ranging from database backups to lost and found software for universities, like just weird stuff. And I always found, if you could dive into something, you can, you can just learn it. It's and I enjoy the learning experience, so that helps a lot too.
Oh, you make it sound too easy. All right.
And I never said it was
Okay. So,
easy.
all right.
Yeah,
Let's get
yeah.
it. Let's let it slide. Um, but what was the biggest challenge for you as solo founder? So was it, I don't know, getting a cold and not being able to 100% focus on the day-to-day operations, or was it the idea of customers leaving you and not being able to get the new ones, or marketing, or like what was your biggest challenge?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge was just my time, and then not having to do everything myself. And also when I was getting started, like first couple of years, there was no SaaS community, and also I didn't have that many. I didn't really have any mentors. So I would go, for example, to my parents for advice, and my mom. I would tell my mom, hey, like I'm working like 16 hours a day. I'm coding. I have to do all this stuff. Um, and her advice is like, no, no, like don't hire anybody because they're gonna like steal your business and copy you. And I was like, okay, this is great advice. So I just ended up doing everything for the first couple of years, and so that was the biggest challenge. But then after that, eventually I ended up getting more mentors, business coaches, other friends, and slowly by slowly built out a team. And so the biggest challenge was, yeah, just spending too much time. And I think if you think about it, every single thing, like most things founders are doing, like when people tell me they're working like 16 hours a day, at first I looked up to it. I was like, wow, this guy's really grinding. But then when you think about it, like what is a person actually doing for 16 hours a day that can't be delegated if you pay someone like $200,000 a year? And if you actually break it down, it's probably like, very little stuff. So that's the one thing that's one big challenge, just being able to delegate more.
So looking back, would you have hired somebody?
Yeah, I should have hired someone like first day. Yeah.
So who was your first hire?
My first hire was a customer support staff, and I remember just onboarding him, and I didn't know what I was doing at the time either. So I sat there for like 3 or 4 or 5 months training him, having Zoom calls every day, and then by month like 7 or 8, one day he just tells me, "Hey, I'm leaving," and then I was like, "Oh shoot! Like I need to train someone again." And then that's when my business coach told me about SOPs and have it in writing and have everything documented, so if he leaves, the information is there instead of just in the brain. And so I started learning things like that to just help streamline the process.
Why customer care? Why was it so
I think that's just
important
the
to you?
lowest. Um, I think that's just the lowest hanging fruit. Like if you have like a metrics, if you have if you put a graph out to see what takes up most of your time, that you don't like to do and that produce the least amount of value. Like, I mean, customer care is very important, but it's one of the more simple jobs that anybody can get into as compared to like a CTO or something like this.
Okay. All right. So what was the biggest win and the biggest failure for the business or for you as a founder?
For the business, I think I got in at a really early time, like 2000, like 10 years ago, and I think at the time, if I put in more, um, if I scaled the team up, like if I was hiring CTOs and a CTO and a huge team from the start, I would have had a shot at competing with some of the bigger SEO tools out there. Like some of them are hitting 100 million, 200 million dollars a year in revenue, and obviously, like I didn't come anywhere close to that. So, but they started at the same time, and I think it's just like they're right now they're so established. It's hard to get into some of the products they're in. So that was probably one of the biggest missed opportunities, I think. And the for the other side, like the great success, um, I think just being able to operate the business and have it thrive for as long as I could. Like it's my first business, and it's like my baby, right? So I'm just happy it didn't die out. 'Cause I know like the success rate even to get to where it got to was very low.
Yeah, that's a pretty amazing story, and yeah, I think we got right to the acquisition. So, was exit ever in the picture? Like, did you start a company thinking that, hey, if it succeeds, I will sell it?
No, I never actually had that thought until like maybe the last 1 or 2 years or so, and I just started talking to some of my friends, and um, you know, based up after a few conversations, basically, I kind of got the seed planted in my head to kind of sell it and work on something else in a different field, and from there, that's how end up reaching out to various potential buyers, and then eventually exiting to saas.group.
Okay, so what was the basically the last step to to go into potential buyers? So what pushed you there?
Well, pushing there, I just thought like, hey, is this a field that I would enjoy working in for the next 10 years, right? And is this something that um, is this something I can well basically can I grow this thing 10x more? And is this something that I enjoy for the next 10 years? So I think I basically exhausted I grew it to the max I can, right? For my abilities for this business, and then also, um, you know, like I've already worked on this business for 10 years. I don't know if I want to put another 10 years into this niche. So I might as well find something else that I another field I enjoy and pursue something of deeper interest for the next 10 years.
Okay. All right. So how did you start approaching buyers? And did you do it or you've had a few offers before?
Yeah, I bought and I bought and sold a few other smaller businesses, but not on this scale. So I was just looking through. I talked to a few brokers, and I also reached out directly to a few of these like private equity acquirer firms. How I found SaaS Group was there was a podcast called Dealer Plus by Nathan Latka, and I think SaaS Group was on one of them. Tim was on one of them. So I just reached out to all those buyers there, and yeah, eventually led to SaaS Group.
Okay. All right. And what surprised you, like during the acquisition or maybe after? What was the biggest, I don't know, shock for you as a seller?
A seller, I think just the scope of due diligence SaaS Group did. There was like 200 questions or something like this, something crazy, and and then they went like really deep. Like they took all the customers, broke everything down by country and all this stuff. Because the other deals I did was more simple and it was more just, hey, let me check your Stripe and your bank or something like this and verify the revenues there. That's kind of it. But then there was like over 100 questions in the technical side and the other side. So that took some time to fill out. And yeah, I think just extensive due diligence, which is good on SaaS Group side. Like, no, like that's what I would do if I was a buyer as well. Um, and also I was surprised on how fast the deal was completed. Um, I think SaaS Group was I'm happy we went through SaaS Group because it's a very smooth deal. I think we closed in like 6 or 8 weeks or something like this. It was just generally a smooth deal, and the legal process was like the contract stuff. There wasn't a lot of redlining, and the lawyer that I used for the acquisition told me that SaaS Group was like out of 100 deals, SaaS Group would be top 10 in terms of simplicity. Like there's not lawyers battling back and forth for every single thing. You know, it's just like a smooth deal. So those are
That's
just
very
two.
interesting.
It's a good, yeah.
Okay, but you said that you started thinking about exit maybe 2 years prior to that. So once you started thinking about it, did you also start documenting everything to the point where an acquirer company
Mm.
could come in and just take all the documents and do the due diligence?
Yeah, we did. So yeah, so we had about a year or no, 1 or 2 years before from the point where I thought I'd sell it and to the point where we actually closed. So basically after that it was like you know I basically basically I wanted to get the maximum value I could for the business, and to do that basically was to make the business as hands off as possible for the buyer and make so it can grow and operate by itself. The first thing I did was I just documented everything that I'm doing myself currently, and I made it a goal to delegate every single item. We hired a GM. She's amazing, Anita. I think she's still on the team,
Yeah.
wholesale, and basically I handed every single item over to her, and she would either do it or delegate that to somebody else. And then I had a lot of like every single. I looked at my calendar, any recurring meetings we had, just cancel them, turn them to writing, or delegate them. So we got to the point where uh, we called it like the goal with me and the general manager we had was like business in a box. Like the idea is the whole business is in a box. You can take this box and give it to someone, and it's a business in a box. And also for the reports we had, it was like the golden star we aimed for was like it was like if I'm on an island and you can only mail me a piece of letter once a week, so you should write what's important on this report, and that stuff I'll actually read. She'll mail it to me on this on this fake island. I'll read it and I'll mail it back. So that was like the standard we went to, and just from iterating that for over a year, I eventually got to the point where the business was basically hands off and fully operating.
Oh, that's a very smart decision. So what was the hardest part about it? Was it the fact that you're giving away your baby, or was it the documentation?
Yeah, I think the documentating and the stuff was kind of fun. But then I think it was yeah, because it's I think running your business, especially your first one, is kind of part of your identity. So whenever you sell it, it's like a piece of you is gone. Like around my business peers and stuff, I'm always known as Kevin, the SEO guy. But now after you sell it, you're no longer the SEO guy. You're just a random random guy. And also, like I think I spoke to some other founders who sold, and I think they have some post sale depression because it's like usually you wake up, there's some messages, they're waiting for you, people asking you what's going on, and then later you wake up and it's like you're not needed anymore almost, which is good, but also yeah, it's actually a win, yeah. So what's different?
Yeah. Right. I was listening to podcast startups for the rest of us, and I forgot who was it, but they said after an acquisition of their company, um, it was like they lost a limb, so they basically couldn't operate for a few months at all because, like you said, the identity is gone. You're no longer the SEO guy. Right.
Oh.
So, yeah, I completely understand. Um, and what happened post acquisition? So basically, yeah, and this is pretty amazing. You said it was just 6 or 7 weeks, right? So, what happened post acquisition? Did you have to do anything? So basically, how did you walk away?
Yeah, there was like a 3 month transition period. So there was like a 3 month transition period with like a small holdback after 6 months. So there's a few points just basically just handing over the remaining stuff to be handed over, and then just keeping up with any training that was done. And then just some, I think, yeah, kind of some basic stuff. Nothing too complicated. So we just basically finished that, and then after 3 months, we finished that, and then yeah, after 6 months, the SaaS group released a holdback. There was a smooth process, no issues there, and that was it.
Okay. So what would you think, what would you tell to other founders? Like, what do they have to absolutely put in place if they ever want to get acquired? So what should be their operation like?
I think it depends of what kind of exit they want. Like if they want all cash clean exit, or if they want to stay a part of the business. Um, I think, or if there's an earnout component or holdback. Like if you want the maximum exit price, then you would do like an earnout with certain like revenue targets, and you stay on the business for 2 or 4 years or something like this. If you just want to walk away clean business, I would just recommend making it as hands off as possible, like hiring um, every single role you can. Just because, for example, if you have nobody working with you and you sell the business, well, you're gonna have to transition everyone, right? So you're gonna have to find a developer, customer support. If you hire all those roles, then that could be a potential 12 to 18-month process. So what you can do instead is front load that and do that before you even try to sell. You'll get to hire multiple, and it'll be a smoother process.
All right. And one thing I accidentally forgot to ask you. So keyword.com is an absolutely bootstrap business from day one to the exit, right? So why bootstrapping?
I was shopping. Well, I think back then there wasn't like really a big VC scene. I think the VC stuff really got started in like 2016, 2018. After the COVID stuff, 2020 really started booming as well. And of course, like we are in 2023 in January, where there's like a bear market now. But yeah, I just mainly we did get offers like people interested in raising and stuff like that. But I just like to have like control over my time and make decisions on my own. I don't want to have to report to someone. I think both ways are good depending on what your goals are. I have some friends who did raise, and their business just skyrockets 10x. Um, yeah, just a personal decision, I think.
Okay, but I just remember you said that there are big players in SEO, right, that are a lot further along, but obviously generate a lot more in revenue.
Mm.
So, do you think that maybe if you have opted for an investment, you could have reached those heights as well?
Yeah, I think that definitely the chances are higher. Like the market doesn't care about they just care about the end product. They don't care what happens to the founder. So let's say I gave up 99% of my equity, and I raised like 100 million or something, and I deployed all that capital. Well, I'd have a better product and I have a better shot of winning. But like for example, the two biggest players in the space, the like one of them is doing 250 million revenue a year or something. They raised I think like 40 million, and the second person I think they're over 100 million, and I think they're bootstrapped. So I think it's more to do with the strategy and how you execute it in the market timing. Um, more over money helps, of course, but I think it's both. Yeah.
I think it's just for a lot of founders, giving up the company or exiting is such a stress only because they think that maybe, there is one more step, maybe there is something else that they
Hmm.
can do, maybe they raise money, then there will be another big win. So how to basically negotiate with yourself that, this is the best case scenario for you.
Yeah, I think well, I think if you're raising, then that means you found a way to keep deploying capital in a way where you get an instant ROI, right? So if I just had to give up 20% of my equity and I can grow the business like 5x, of course it's a no-brainer. Um, I think that would be a good framework to decide. Um, but of course, at the time, like I was just focusing on the one segment with the rank tracking. I wasn't focusing on anything else, so it wasn't that capital intensive. Um, and I was doing all the programming as well. I think if I hired a CTO and a whole team, then definitely I would have looked into raising and trying to um, get more out that way.
Well, you seem content with your decision anyway. So, I just wanted to see what's your take on the whole situation. But I have one more bonus question for you. Keyword.com was bootstrapped, right? All the way to the exit. So what bootstrapped company do you believe in and would like to have shares at, and why?
I love Bootstrap company. That's a good one. I think there's some really good companies that I follow. Like I think for example ConvertKit, and they I think they grew a really big business, and in a really sustainable way. I think they started around the same time, like 10 years ago as well. And yeah, I think that's a really good. They got in at a good time. They targeted good niche with the bloggers, email bloggers, and yeah, I think that'd be good for business.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing and obviously telling the story. And it was really great to know how the acquisition went. So you seem happy about it, and it doesn't look like it's scary at all. So thank you so much for sharing your story, Kevin.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. All right. And take care. And I hope we can have you again here sometime.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Bye.